What if I told you Geraldo Garcia Luna, Najib Raza, and Igor Komolevsky are the reason your home prices are so expensive? Who are these people? These three are Mexico's former top law enforcement officer, Malaysia's former prime minister, and a Ukrainian oligarch, respectively. You see, there was a shocking expose from Politico that explains the hidden forces driving up US housing prices that most people are getting wrong. Here's what I learned analyzing the data. And while what we're about to share may be stark, stick to the end because the solution may be music to your ears. By the way, over the past 6 years, my sister Nancy and I have been knee-deep into figuring out how to fight back against these types of schemes, building a $300 million real estate portfolio, yep, that's 9 zeros, in the process, and working with thousands of incredible passive investors along the way. Here's the thing, what we're sharing isn't just theory or something you read in a textbook. It's exactly what we've been doing every single day. This is real, day in and day out stuff that makes the difference. Now, back to Politico. This expose states that the reasons you can't afford a home isn't because of high interest rates, inflation, or even supply shortages. The reason? Well, it all comes back to Luna, Raza, and Komolevsky, and others like them. Every year, hundreds of billions of dollars in dirty money flows through the global financial system. Therefore, these people need somewhere to hide their money. And this is where it gets interesting. People who like them allegedly use their ill-gotten gains from bribes, state funds, misappropriation, etc. as part of a larger scheme to launder billions of dollars. Part of these funds goes into buying luxury US real estate. Did you know that most luxury real estate purchases are done anonymously? According to the New York Times, here's the breakdown. In Manhattan, it's over 50%. San Francisco, nearly half. Miami, more than a third. But these are luxury homes. Now, you might be thinking, I'm not shopping for a luxury penthouse. So how does this affect me? Well, let me show you something that's fascinating about how the housing market works. This is what I call the cascading effect. When dirty money flows into the luxury market, it creates this kind of scenario. Wealthy buyers get pushed down, upper middle class buyers move lower, middle class buyers compete for starter homes, first time buyers, well, they're pushed out completely. While Politico may not be wrong that the dirty money is definitely impacting housing prices, there are 3 other factors that are making the crisis worse. And this is what I call the chicken or the egg of the real estate market. The first can be explained by this chart. Here's the bigger picture. Since 1982, on average, there's been about 2.2 million houses in inventory every year, and that peaked back in July 2007 when it hit a whopping 4 million houses. But we've been on a steep decline ever since, dipping as low as 86,000 homes in January 2022. And since then, things haven't improved much. This, my friend, is what we call a massive supply crisis. Here's the deal. According to the latest data, we're short approximately 3.8 million houses right now. Let that sink in. Nearly 4 million homes that we need right now, but we don't have. And we're building fewer homes today than we did back in the 1960s. Yup, the 1960s, when population was just a fraction of what it is today. The gap isn't closing, it's only widening. Why? You may think of this as the battle between the rotary versus the smartphone. If you see here, this is a chart of home ownership by generational cohorts. The older generations still control almost 90% of the housing stock in this country, compounded by higher home prices, higher interest rates. These old gens, they can't afford to downsize. Thus, they're in a HODL or hold on for dear life pattern, much longer on their current home. Therefore, this brings us to our second point. And unless we can solve for this, we won't see an easing of the housing shortage. Today, we're seeing a historic surge in demands as millennials, America's largest generation, enters their prime buying years in masses. This demand spike would be manageable if construction had kept pace, but it hasn't. The rate of new home construction lags well behind the population growth, and with households getting smaller on average, we actually need more housing units than past demographics patterns would suggest. Thus, we reached the third point, which is a point of no return for the US real estate landscape. And guys, this is a permanent change. So check out this graph by Visual Capitalist. Right now, the average rent in the United States is around $1,850 a month, which is roughly around 30% less than what you'll typically pay to buy a home, which is around $2,700. This represents the biggest price gap between renting and buying that we've ever seen in the US. Just to give you an idea of how quickly this changed, back in 2022, the difference between renting and buying was less than $200. Fast forward to 2023, and that gap has jumped to over $800. Because of this huge difference, a lot of people, especially those looking to buy their first home, find themselves unable to afford it. They're just getting completely priced out of owning a home, which is a big concern for a lot of folks right now. While we acknowledge that a myriad of factors are driving up US housing prices, regardless of the underlying factor, what has become clear is that these aren't issues we can tackle alone as real estate investors. However, what we can do is look for opportunities amidst the chaos. As the country leans towards becoming a renters nation, real estate investors can play a pivotal role in easing this transition. One effective strategy that we've been implementing is creating build-to-rent communities or developing multifamily properties, whether they're apartments, single-family homes, or townhomes. This approach has been a focus for us because it provides an alternative to traditional home ownership. These units offer perks of having a home without the headache, no mortgages, no property taxes, no insurance hassles, and no constant maintenance stress. Why focus here? Because this strategy isn't just about building homes for tenants, but it's also about building income-producing machines for real estate investors. And by the way, by building these communities, we help reduce or eliminate the vacancy vampire units that are making homes more expensive for people like you and us. An empty unit doesn't hurt just the bottom line. It destroys the entire purpose of homes as place of shelter. This approach creates a win-win scenario. Developers like us increase housing supply to meet the demand, while tenants gain access to better, more affordable options. But here's the deal, investors can't do this alone. Real change requires cooperation at the federal and regional levels. We need policies that don't just encourage investments, but actively incentivize building more houses. Why? Because when housing supply grows, rent prices stabilize, and that's good for everyone. Big changes are on the horizon. At this point, you may understand the underlying cause of home unaffordability, but if you don't learn how to actually invest in BTRs, this is all for naught. So go tune into this episode to learn how.